Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Comic Book Workshop. Today we are going to be looking at the comic artist Lee Bermejo, and there's a couple of different things it is that I want to talk about his work, but specifically the title of this, what will be in the title of this, is about cinematic storytelling. We're going to look at the way it is that this guy is able to use his panel work in order to create these shots that feel like they're something out of a movie. More than a lot of the other artists that is we've looked at so far, this guy to me, his style, the level of rendering for one thing, obviously has allusions to cinema in general, but also just the way he makes the story flow from panel to panel. And so we're going to kind of look at that from a perspective of the way it is that he imitates cinema. And I think there's going to be some interesting things it is that we notice about this. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So the first thing it is that I notice when I look at this is, like I said, the rendering. It when I zoom in on these, I mean, even shots like this one here, and I mean, really the whole thing, it makes you wonder, and I don't mean this in any disrespect at all whatsoever to Lee Bermejo. And if anybody knows the answer to this, then please feel free to reach out to me and let me know. But I wonder if any of this is assets or photos or something that he's manipulating. I'm not accusing anybody of doing that because comic artists don't like that, but uh, I hope it comes across as a compliment because if he's just doing this by, looking at reference and then drawing it freehand, or he's just drawing it completely freehand, the level of detail in this work is pretty phenomenal. And he has a great way of moving the panels from one side to the next, and his technique is completely flawless. There's not only is there a gesture there that is suggesting movement, such as in this first panel that we see here. This is from Rorschach, the one of the Watchmen characters, right? I guess this is one of the standalone comics they did of him. But I mean, like you can see that there is a general sense of movement, right? In the gesture itself, which to me tells me that he's not, like I said, I'm not accusing anybody of tracing anything or anything like that. Because the gesture and the way it is that it's drawn is so clean uh, that it's it's just really good. I mean, the guy is like phenomenally good. And not only is he good at the rendering, but the actual direction from panel to panel is exceptional, right? Like in this shot, the way that he effortlessly pulls your eye around while at the same time making us feel like a bigger than life moment, right? So we have this gesture of him rolling, and he's rolling in the direction, the same direction it is that we're looking at in this next panel as he runs into the cab, right? And then we basically have a stop here with this cab driver looking over his shoulder as the figure runs in. And then again, we have another panel that immediately points us this way. And why is that? Because we see the character is looking with one eye and he's looking in this direction. And I love it when comic artists do this sort of thing, where they have this kind of background image that's sitting behind these panels, right? So it's sitting behind these panels, and I think this suggests a movement in time, but I think it also gives it a sense of it gives it a cinematic kind of quality to it, right? Because we can obviously see that this would be the next panel, and maybe even this would be the next panel that would follow after that, right? And the way that he illustrated that and set that into the background is it feels like it makes the page feel much more alive and much more dynamic, right? And then we get these two next shots, which is that the cab is arriving somewhere, and then it looks like he's putting on his hat and he's getting ready to exit the car, right? So there's a very strong sense of direction as well as the rendering style in this image as well as is obviously phenomenal. So this is another example of something that I'm talking about where I say like he's got really cinematic visual storytelling. And part of that is because it's so readable from a distance. We have this character here who looks like Rorschach probably just punched him in the face or something, and he's recovering from this, or maybe he's yelling at one of his goons, and then we see these other guys coming up the stairs, and as it's coming up the stairs, we have this really cool, iconic kind of shot of Rorschach as he's being alerted to these men's movement. There's a couple of different things it is that I noticed compositionally as well. A lot of leading lines, right? So his gaze is going down, and so you could think of that almost as a line. And so it goes down and it falls in parallel to this object here in the foreground, and it stops with this other wooden structural element, which then points us back here. And the same thing as it goes with the staircase. The staircase itself is also pointing us in that direction, right? And I think that that's important that you recognize whenever you're putting together these comic pages. If you're making a comic, then what it is that you want to do is um, you want to be able to keep everything organized in a way that is visually easy for you to read the page. And doing things like this, where you're basically just lining up things and pointing people in directions, even if it's inadvertently pointing people in certain directions, this is very useful. It's very useful to you. So again, another really awesome cinematic shot. Like the settings and everything, they just feel very cinematic, right? Breaking a panel into these two, it almost feels like one. It almost feels like one panel, but he breaks them into two, and that gives you a sense of movement. Like perhaps this rat is now the one that's moving past him, right? As his path crosses over it. We have this great lighting scheme of the figure mostly in shadow, with this light here in the foreground, and then him creeping up on a looks like he's turning around a corner, and then there's a train that's about to come up. So there's a sense of movement throughout the scene. There's a the visuals give it this kind of very dramatic aesthetic to it. There is an insane amount of detail here. Whatever techniques he's using, they definitely work, and they're quite interesting. Because I would really be interested in knowing like what how he's able to get this much detail. Is he working traditionally or digitally or what? If anybody knows, let me know. Then we got this other awesome shot, and I've got one more after this that I want to end it on. But this is another great example of how it is that you can move the scene around and make it easily readable, right? So Rorschach has obviously been chased into um, this he's been chased into this sewer or whatever the name is escaping me right now, and he's fighting off these goons, right? And so a lot of this is very self-explanatory, right? We obviously see Rorschach is here, and then we see these four guys. All of them are aiming in the same direction. They're all coming for him, right? And we see that he's made a rebound and he's hit this guy right here, right? So not only is he very good at keeping your attention where it needs to be, but the other thing that he's really good at is that he's also very good at uh, making sure everything is oriented in the space the way that it's supposed to be, right? Because this character is now here, right? And then we see that he's moved behind him now, and he whacks him in the back, knocking him down on top of this guy here. And then we get another shot of him. We see the gun here, and then we see him reaching for it, and then we see him turn around. We see the reaction shot of the guy's faces, and then we see a close up on the gun barrel. Click. Right? So there's different ways it is that he could have done this. But again, he's using different techniques, right? So to me, I look at this and I see that it looks like one big illustration that's in the background, and then it almost feels like these are almost like Polaroid shots of the action as it falls this way, goes this way, this way, this way, this way, here, here. So there's this line, this zigzagging line that he drags throughout the piece. And notice that, he makes sure to show you the shotgun in this piece, and then the hand reaching for the shotgun, and then we see the orientation of Rorschach in the environment here, and then we get the reactions of all three of these figures, then the click of the sawed-off shotgun. And I think that's a very important thing, right? Because he's being very deliberate with what shots it is that he shows. He makes sure to show all three of the remaining guys and their facial expression rather than just one with a close up of just one guy's face. We also see that he's obviously looking up at him, so we're looking at it from his perspective, right? So again, the cinematic storytelling that's going on here, it all has to do with the way it is that he directs the scene, and the way it is that he's suggesting the movements of the camera with the size of the panels, and what it is that he decides to convey in the panels, right? So you have this awesome shot here of Rorschach. It looks like after he got beat up, he's going to find some medication, something to help him, right? And so we get this establishing shot that sits behind the illustration, and I guess in a lot of ways this is a really iconic way for Lee to give you an establishing shot, right? He doesn't need to do a cityscape or anything like that. He just shows you that he's obviously arriving at some sort of a drugstore because we see the sign back here, and we see him going towards it. Then we see little moments of time passing in the panels. We see what looks like blood dropping onto the ground. We see him getting to the door, and then as he gets to the door, he unlocks it. And then we have this awesome shot here. I love this shot of him as he's bleeding and he's walking through. We see the reflection on the wall. We see the mirror on the wall, right? And this obviously leads right into here, right? So again, it's the same sort of thing. It's like there's this obvious kind of road that he's giving you for your eye to follow through the image so that you can read it very clearly. And this, in my mind, is very much a hallmark of cinematic storytelling in comics. All right, guys, that's all it is that I got for you today. Um, Go ahead and leave me a comment in the comment box below if you would like for me to cover any other specific comic artist or a specific topic in comics. I have a couple of different things to mention. For one thing, if you want to check out my comic and you want to get a free 19-page sample, the Philip K. Dick Files is my sci-fi horror comic, which is a adaptation of short stories from Philip K. Dick. You can find those in the link in the description below. You can get a free copy, free 19 pages of the first issue. Along with that, I also have a Discord and a Patreon that I'm making live right now, where I'm slowly building up some content there, such as tutorials and process stuff. That if you would like an extra amount of these videos, or if you would like to see some of these videos before they go live throughout the week, then I'm going to start collecting some of them there for people that want to see them. But I plan on continuing to make videos just like this. So, anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in and let me know what you think. I hope this was helpful to you guys. Thank you and take care.